Welcome to the SES Happy Hour. That's Joe Will, that's Alec Nederveld, and we're here to talk about bowl games. We have the quarterfinals and the New Year's 6 bowls that just happened. But hey, when we last left you, we were talking about the Reliaquest Bowl. That was Alabama and Michigan heading down to Tampa, and one team came out on top. And sadly for Joe, it was the Michigan Wolverines. And Davis Warren, Alex Orji, they split reps. Warren got hurt a little bit into the third. But hey, the Wolverines dammed the tide, that they stopped the tide from rolling. And it was a very, very low tide for the most part. It was a one score. I just got like three puns in there, but one score loss in Tampa. Jalen Milroe's final game. We'll get a little bit more on that later. But Joe, I'll let you start on this one. So, what are your thoughts with it?
Funnily enough, I wasn't able to too much this night. I went on, and I don't know why it was being played so early. It was at 11 a.m. for us here Central Time. But I did get to see the last 2 minutes of the game, and I think that was just about all I needed to see to kind of get a good gauge of what actually had been going on all game. It was just rough, kind of a microcosm of the whole year, this whole season for Alabama, just inconsistent on offense in all aspects. Receiver, offensive line blocking, quarterback play from Milroe, just an ugly game and ugly into a disappointing season for sure.
Yeah, and for sure. I think it was bad on all parts. I know Milroe had a rough game. I don't think it was the best called game by Sheridan. I don't think it was the best called game by Womack. But overall, I just didn't really like that one. Alec, did you have anything to talk about on the bowl game on Monday?
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at it from more of a Michigan perspective. And, Michigan was a team that was counted out all year. They obviously had that early loss to Texas that was bad. Couple near losses to USC, Minnesota. Got pretty badly beaten by Illinois. Lost to Oregon. I know I'm missing something. I know they got a really bad loss to somebody. But what this Michigan
Texas.
team did at the end of the yeah, no, I'm saying like a 6-6 team or something beat them. Or I'm trying to think. Maybe
Did
maybe I'm
USC
missing.
beat them?
No, they beat USC. Huh. Yeah. Besides the point. What Michigan did though at the end of the year, back to against the wall, they had a lot of their players who were injured. Will Johnson has been out for a little while. Colson Loveland, the tight end. Michigan could have really easily gave up on the season. They
Yeah.
didn't have a quarterback. They had a transition year. They won the national championship a year ago. You can just excuse it on the new coaching staff and all the new players. Say it's a championship hangover, whatever. It's very admirable that this Michigan team, they kept fighting, they kept working. They almost beat Indiana at the end. They saw everything come together with that win over Ohio State. Granted, I think a lot of it was from the Ohio State coaching staff more than anything else, but still, you beat Ohio State, which they're looking like the most talented team in the country right now. They look like they should win the national title.
Yeah.
Again, same thing against Michigan. They fought, they had a scheme, they got up early. Again, I was at work for the start of this game. I got a friend who's a Bama fan. He texts me Lane Kiffin to Tuscaloosa question mark. I'm like, what are you talking about? I look at the score. I figured out what he's talking about. It's just again, it's Michigan just got on him early. They held through to the end, and it's an impressive win. It's an impressive eighth win that I didn't think Michigan was going to get to this year, quite frankly.
So the not impressive loss was to a 6-6 Washington
Ah,
team
Washington.
that
Yep.
did lose to Louisville over the week as well. And I did want to say just one quick little thing when it comes to this game. So we on the screen, obviously I kind of highlight the two best players, and so Davis Warren, he kind of had a pretty solid game. I know he was kind of the starter, half starter, co-starter type thing with Orgy throughout the season. But honestly, that first half, even though it wasn't as impressive as of a stat sheet, like just watching the film, it was a pretty good throwing game, especially that first quarter. But the big time player who we also have on there is Jordan Marshall. Jordan Marshall, an 100-yard rusher, which I think only happened two or three times this year against Alabama. And it was a very impressive game for him. And the funniest part about it, he only had on the season 20 yards. So his season total is now six times more. It went from 20 to 120. And but great game from Michigan and overall. But yeah, but not to spend too much time on that, but let's move on to the Jalen Milroe. So Jalen Milroe, this has been a talking point a lot up and down of like, hey, where's he gonna be at draft wise? Should he have entered the portal? I'll go ahead and say like my personal belief on it is that I think he'll be a day one pick no matter what. I think his floor is like a late playoff team who views him more of like a sleeper, a project piece, something like that. I think his athletic potential you cannot give up, especially if you're a team in the AFC who doesn't have one. Like if you're the Steelers and you're not too high on Fields, or and I know I have to give credit to Alec on that one, and then or a few other teams, especially in the AFC, because like the NFC. It has quarterbacks, but the NFC is a lot more. You need a defense to win rather than a quarterback. But the AFC, it's very quarterback heavy, especially right now. But as we're still kind of on Alabama, Joe, I'll let you talk again on your boy Jalen and just like what you have to think about it.
Yeah, you hit it on a lot of points. Plenty on discussing Milroe up and down year, but I mean, I think if you look at his Alabama career as a whole, finishing with 6 passing yards, 45 passing touchdowns, 33 rushing touchdowns, in basically just 2 years, it's solid. And a lot of teams aren't going to be able to ignore his traits. Saw with Anthony Richardson, who basically didn't even have remotely as close to as good of a career as Milroe did at the collegiate level. He was still taken pretty high. So, and I think the best thing for Milroe maybe would to be go kind of in the late first round, just because, like you said, there's not that pressure for him to come in immediately and have to start. Can sit back behind maybe a veteran guy or um, somebody who's kind of a veteran player, like somebody he can learn from. Like the Steelers, Steelers would be great for him. Imagine him
For sure.
learning from Russell Wilson, kind of learning the ins and outs of the game, and Mike Tomlin's the Steelers are a well run franchise, so that would be the best thing for him. But
Yeah.
just again, another frustration for me as a fan is I knew immediately after the game was over I could go on to Twitter, go on just being his divider all year in regards to him, and almost just celebrating the fact that the season was done for him, which is makes me so mad because say what you will about him, as a player on the field, off the field, he's a great stand up guy, and I still think the sky is the limit for him, and I wish the fan base wouldn't be so spoiled and reactive about things, but that's just kind of been this year for the fan base. So I'm hoping for the best for Milroe. I think his, like I keep saying, his ceiling is still pretty high, and hopefully the Alabama fan base will rein it in a little bit, but I'm not counting on it.
Yeah, and I will say one thing just to chime in before I let Alec. The Bama fan base, I think the fact that Bama has had so many talented players, they don't understand that they're just kids at this point, right? Like you're still talking about like I don't want to like copy the copy pasta, but you're talking about a Christian, a man, and or whatever, right? Like cause like these are growing kids, and like think about like the whole Matai Teo documentary that just came out. Like that one story completely changed his life of like where it was all headed. So you can be like your words have power, and I think with some of these guys, they just automatically assume like they can just talk as much crap about a player as they can. And I said one thing, and I'll see if I can pull it up real quick. But I know Joe, you responded to it. But I said the thing about if you talk crap about a player who's going to away from your school, do not try to take credit for him in the league. And like I didn't have this account when Jalen did that, but I guarantee that there was people that were like, "Oh, I'm glad Jalen's gone in Oklahoma," and those were the same people like, "Oh, I'm glad he's doing so well and with the Eagles." Hashtag Bama made. But Alec, I know that's still not your region because you're up there in upstate, but what do you have to say about Jalen Milroe, and what are your thoughts on him as a prospect?
I agree that he definitely needs to get out of Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
But I think that the better move for him, I think, would have been play one more year in college, enter the portal, and reassess your position in the NFL from there. I think right now, I was a little harsher when we talked a little bit earlier, Scout. I do think that his ceiling, or his, I think the earliest he can be picked is probably, somewhere in the 20s. He's probably going to end up somewhere early to mid day 2 pick, I think.
Yeah.
I think, though, if he spends one more year with a different type of head coach, a different scheme, I think a scheme that, I think utilizes, I think a more balanced scheme where, Milroe doesn't have to do everything for a team, whether that be running, passing, whatever. I think that would build him into a better passer. I think that one more year would allow him to be a top 5, maybe even a top 1 pick overall. If you're looking at it from a money perspective, he's going to get paid handsomely by an NIL collective, and that 1 year in college where you're making, let's say, comparable money, even half as much money, that could lead to so much more money in your rookie contract. Just the difference in even 10 picks, it's probably going to be probably 20, 30 picks of a difference for Milroe. That's millions of dollars down the road.
Now,
so I think he has that upside. I think he needs one more year to deliver on it.
And I will say one thing on that is I think if anybody with like in the NFL side of things was in his ear, they would have told him to go this year because I don't think he wants to go against like Cade Klubnik or any of them next year. Because when it comes to being a talent like that, like the guys that are up for next year, it gets kind of crazy with how talented they are. But yeah. Did you want to book in that?
I mean, I agree with you on that. Milroe, he's going to be a higher quarterback right now, I guess, if that makes sense. He's probably, right now the QB3, QB4 in this draft class, but he might, again, one more year, you're going to get all these guys that project to be so much better and, maybe jump over Milroe with another year. So I do get that from that perspective as well.
Yeah. And Joe, did you want to end with anything?
Just kind of reiterating what you all are saying. I think I wouldn't be shocked if they were projected like a top 15 pick just because of we talked about it before the show. Obviously, we're going to the Senior Bowl, so we're hoping we're going to get to see Milroe there. Yeah. But I do think that's an event that would really, really increase his draft stock. Obviously, because right now the last thing teams are and GMs and all these people are remembering from him is, the Oklahoma game. He played well against Auburn, kind of a little bit. He was still a little shaky. And then Michigan, just absolutely poor performance. So if he can get to Mobile and get to be around, there's NFL scouts and GMs and a whole slew of talented players that are on the Senior Bowl roster. I think that would be the right move for him. And I can see that really skyrocketing his stock.
Yeah, for sure. And so we had another game that day or the day after. Don't quote me on it. But we had Illinois. And hey, Carolina fans, I know that at least one of y'all is probably watching. Gamecock Will 69 is probably in there. Gamecock retweeter. But you got out squeezed, in the Citrus Bowl. So but hey, it was a good game to say the least. Obviously, we have the Bret Bielema T-pose in there. We have Luke Altmaier up there as well, and it was just an interesting game, right? Every single time, and yes, I'm forgetting the name of the guy I literally put up there. One of y'all can call it out because for some reason I have terrible memory today.
Vegan?
The guy from Illinois. Wow.
Yeah,
McCray,
Vegan, isn't
McCray,
it?
right there.
Oh.
But with McCray, I'm sorry. But every single time that they needed to play, it was McCray, right? Oh, that NIL deal right there. Anyways, but even at the very end of the game, right, he had a 60-yard run to ice it off, and it was just like the different things that they were doing throughout the game. And I will say, like, yes, it was a shootout there for a while, not points wise, but just big play wise. But I'm like, South Carolina didn't finish drives as much as they wanted to. Didn't they have a fumble, I believe? Did they have a turnover? Well, actually, they won the turnover battle technically. So that's probably one of those games where it's like first time they've lost a game when winning the turnover battle. But yeah, but it was just, and there's not really anything that you can point to in the stats that are like, hey, like they did this better than us. But it's like Illinois did that much better than South Carolina in so many different categories. But yeah, but Alec, I know that you've been watching some of these Big Ten teams a little bit more. What are your thoughts on Illinois, Citrus Bowl, Bret Bielema, and just all that?
Yeah, fantastic turnaround for the Illini this year. This is a team that they were 5-7 a year ago. They're going to double that win total. It's the first 10-win season since I want to say 2001, maybe 2002 for Illinois. Fantastic work from Bret Bielema. Um, One of my guys that I talk a lot with, I work with him, my guy Ryan Evans Schroet. Shout out Ryan. He wrote like the second or third week of the year after Illinois beat Kansas, which was a top 25 win. Kansas had an interesting season, of course. I think it was tough, physical, dependable, something along those lines. And yeah, that's what Illinois has been all year. They've taken care of the football. They've had a physical run game, a lot of big offensive linemen, like what Bret Bielema does. Had some good receivers as well with Pat Bryant. He had a fantastic season. Didn't play in this game. What's his name? The old UTSA guy, Zachary Franklin, another good receiver right there. Luke Altmaier. He's assembled a very good roster, and I think he's proven himself as he knows his stuff as a coach. He knows how to find advantages. One of which being the substitution rules. So I think South Carolina, a lot of the game, they substituted very late. Illinois, what they did, they substituted very slow. They had a lot of guys go in and out on the field, and Bielema told them, take your sweet time. So that's an advantage. Is it a little unethical? Maybe, but it's in the rules. You have every right to take advantage of it. And a good coach knows where to, a good coach finds loopholes. He knows what to do to help his team win. Bielema did that. Played a huge difference in the game, and one of the reasons why Illinois is a 10-3 team.
Yeah, for sure. I loved everything you talked about there. I also think that certain Hog fans are kind of annoyed right now because Illinois is in a better spot where Arkansas is, and Bielema, and then Luke, which Matt Luke,
Altmaier?
or no,
Ah,
Matt Luke. Like basically all the old Arkansas coaches are either on better teams or head coaching better teams than they were in Arkansas. And but yeah, that's a whole other discussion for another day. But Joe, I know you also have run into plenty of South Carolina fans, and you've run into a good amount of Illinois stuff as well. So what were your thoughts on this year's iteration of the Citrus Bowl?
Oof, another game that I was just dead wrong on. We're going to talk about the Sugar Bowl Notre Dame game, but I thought this was going to be a game that South Carolina would dominate. I know they had some guys out. Obviously, Pat Bryant was out for Illinois, but I thought Lenore Sellers was going to take over this game, and it was just going to kind of be like a similar performance to how they had against Clemson and how they ended their year. But hats off to Bielema and hats off to Illinois. They're just a tough Big Ten team, and that was on display for sure. I'm not the biggest fan of Bielema, but like I said, hats off to him. I do love Shane Beamer, and SEC is off to a rough start. Basically, SEC's been tanked this bowl season. They have not done well at all. So
Hey,
I don't know. SEC stock might be down. I'm getting a lot of texts from people talking about the SEC, and I mean, I don't have much rebuttal for it because the record speaks for itself this season.
so we're to a point, and we'll talk about Arizona State a little bit later, but we're to a point that I don't think the SEC can talk as much crap as it has been able to in the past. Like I don't think that there's any room for talking smack about X, Y, or Z for the SEC. They didn't play well in the Sugar Bowl. They didn't play well in the basically any college playoff game this year in both the Sugar Bowl and in the Peach Bowl, the one that Texas was in. They didn't play well in the Reliaquest Bowl, didn't play well in the Citrus Bowl. Shout out LSU for winning the Texas Bowl against Baylor.
Florida kind of
But
carried too against Tulane, didn't they? I can't remember the final score of that game, but I think.
yeah, they dominated.
Yeah, they so it was a
I mean,
weird one.
that's all you have to really hang your hat on.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and you dominated a Tulane team without their quarterback and without like five other players. So it's like even then, if you're saying, oh, well, we dominated Tulane, well, then you're having to give credit to the AAC and whatever. But And I'm not saying anything bad about the ACC, but I'm saying the SEC would have to tip its hat to the American Athletic Conference. I don't think they want to do that, but yeah. And then we're watching and what's the score update over here? Yeah, Ole Miss is up 38-7 in the middle of the third against
Saving the SEC.
yeah. But there are but they're up against Duke, and Duke they should be ranked, but they're not ranked, so we don't count that as a ranked win for Ole Miss. But yeah, but it's so I don't think at this point, other than the bowl game, I don't think the SEC has a ranked bowl in at least, but I know they have several ranked bowl losses. But yeah, but that's really all we have to say on Illinois, and then we'll just hop into today. Notre Dame. So as most of you know, I grew up a Georgia fan in a split household, Georgia, Florida. Anyways, but watching this was some retro Georgia football. And when I say retro Georgia football, I don't mean that in a kind of way. I mean that like a 2015 kind of way. It was annoying. It was you knew it was coming and you knew it wasn't gonna work. They got bailed out and they didn't secure on it. That drive, I knew like with 9 minutes to go, I knew that the game was over when they fail like they get 15 free yards on a call that shouldn't have even been a PI, and then all of a sudden we're just tossing it in. The run game was working, the short game was there the whole day, and we're like, oh, with 9 minutes to go, we have to throw the ball on at least 15 yards in the air, and I'm like, oh, it was so annoying, and me personally, I didn't really like it, but yeah, but we'll do 2-2 here. A little MLB split. So we'll go back to Alec. Alec, what were your thoughts on the Sugar Bowl? Sugar Bowl, yes. And and also, well, I will say, time out, time out, time out. We do have thoughts and prayers to the people of New Orleans. It was very sad to see what happened on Bourbon Street just a few days ago. Definitely not something to like. Obviously, the game was postponed and everything, so I did want to take a little moment to say that, and shout out to all the authorities and stuff that stepped in, made sure it was safe to play, and got the game done in a timely manner. So yeah, but Alec, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that game.
Yeah.
I want to start with Notre Dame though. I like shouting out the winners, and the winners they they just out they did damn near everything better than Georgia did. If I'm looking at it from a coaching staff, from the coordinators, Mike Denbrock and Al Golden, they outcoached Glenn Schumann and especially Jake Bobo. Marcus Freeman, he outcoached Kirby Smart. You saw that with some of their play calling. That crucial the 4th and 1 where they had that they were gonna punt, and then that substitution got a first down, and were able Georgia. Notre Dame was able to wipe out 5 more minutes of the clock. Riley Leonard outplayed Gunnar Stockton, who I thought Stockton played a good football game. Just he didn't manage the protection as well he should have. The Notre Dame defensive line just dominated the game, and in the end, you see a Georgia team that doesn't look like the one we've seen over the past couple of years. I want to say this is their first double-digit loss since the 2021 SEC championship game against Bama. 10 points for Georgia is just not. It's almost unexcusable the way they played. It's
Yeah.
poor.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I don't understand. And then you had the thing with and honestly, okay, I don't blame that random kid for being a little bit in the way. Also, I would like that. I would just like to call this out. If you as a referee throw a flag on a kid, his toes were in the white. Okay, I understand. But there was no reason for the ref to run on the very back line of the white, and his step just before was on the grass. So I'm like, and there's no way that the ref knew that he was in the white because he never looked down to see if he himself was in the fault. So I'm almost like it's almost like you're being a police officer, right? I'm like,
Hey,
oh,
I've been a ref for flag football before. I've talked to some refs who do high school games. That white box, nobody's supposed to be there.
yeah,
Normally, it's not much of an issue, especially during plays. There's some guys on there, doing subs and calling out plays, whatever.
yeah,
During a play, there's supposed to be nobody there, and if you're there and you impede the play, the refs they make a big deal about that.
yeah. But it's like, and I will say the funniest thing about that is, I myself, it was not me trying like doing anything totally bad, but at one game this year, I almost got flagged for high school football because I was like, the funny thing was though, is that the ref figured it out. Cause like, yes, I was like spread legged or whatever, and I made the ref trip, but I'm down the field, I'm at the 5 yard line, and this ref is like 4 yards behind the white. And he reaches for his flag because he saw that like my logo or whatever, and he's just like, oh, I see, I'm way out of the way, my fault, kid. And I was like, thanks, because I'm like, if I got chewed out for anyways. But yeah, that's my thing on that. Anyways, sidetrack. Joe Will, what are your thoughts on the Sugar Bowl, and just what do you have to say about it?
Starting with that flag, I get from like an official standpoint, like by rules, like you have to like you're gonna throw that. But I think in that moment, it's like I just think it's ridiculous. In a game of that magnitude, to kind of, I don't want to say make it about you, but kind of like, I mean, come on, really, you're gonna throw the flag in that moment. Y'all still see me? Oh, like screen froze for a second. But anyways, and then the game itself, I thought going into this game, being Georgia was 3-0 against Notre Dame, I thought this was going to be a textbook. Kind of the same reason why I picked Georgia to beat Texas both times. Like, I thought Kirby Smart's been in this moment. They're kind of a well-oiled machine, even though they've showed a lot of rust this year. I thought this was going to be like a vintage Georgia performance with a backup quarterback, and that they were going to get the job done. And the defense, I mean, kind of did their part. But there was just, I mean, aside from penalties, which obviously Notre Dame had all that penalty yardage. Some of it was warranted, some of it was not. I think that pass interference was pass interference, but we won't get too much into that. Because they just outcoached and outplayed Georgia. And I thought Georgia, I didn't necessarily think Stockton was going to have like a massive 300-yard game. I thought they were really tight with the play calling early on for him, so I expected them to be a little bit more loose and kind of the fact that I mean, it's a playoff game. You got to kind of leave it all out on the field. And Mike Bobo, I know a lot of Georgia fans I know are not. I've never really been too high on Mike Bobo, and I think after today, it was kind of just like reiterated for me. Like, yeah. I'm not too impressed with Mike Bobo, but yeah, hats off to Notre Dame. I kind of thought it was a joke. They were in the playoffs, and the fact that they don't play in a conference and they lost to Northern Illinois, but they played hard the last 2 games. So that's all you can really say. It's just hats off to them. And yeah. As a family that has Penn State ties, I will happily root against them when they play Penn State. But I've been impressed with them the last 2 games.
Yeah. Hey, and just to bring up a friend of the show, technically because he follows us, but John Summerall, he posted this beauty, and yes, we will figure out how to make these. Oh, wow, that is so small. Anyways, he posted this beauty.
Zoom in a little bit.
I'm just making it bigger. My guy Shane Beamer supporting the Notre Dame at the Sugar Bowl today, and I swear when John Summerall is on his off season on vacation, this is this man's primary content. He posts a lot of this, and we love this, John. We love this coach, but yeah. So this is why when somebody asks me, they're like why do you like John Summerall? Because he can take his collar down, right? He can take his tie off every now and then, and he does it in a way that's not like Lane Kiffin. Like Lane Kiffin just takes his tie off whenever he's trying to make sure that like nobody hates him. But my boy John Summerall, he does it no matter what, He does it for the love of the game, as some people would say, right? Anyways, and the fact that I know that my thing's just like right there, so there's like a 5% chance that he was watching right then. If he was, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so we're rolling along. And also, big shout out Marcus Freeman. Lucas isn't here. He got called into work last minute. But I swear Lucas not talked down, but he did not trust Marcus Freeman going into this. I had Notre Dame as my dark horse. I didn't think they're going to beat Georgia. I thought it would be close. But that guy, Riley Leonard, he's been balling out. I think Riley Leonard versus Tyler Warren, and especially they're both going to the Senior Bowl. That's look, Nagy.
The Tyler Warren thing hasn't been official. I haven't seen that anywhere unless I'm tripping. I hope he's there, but I haven't seen it.
I thought he was. Maybe not. That's not.
He
that's
should
not
be
like,
there. I want to see him there.
Get Tyler Warren
Hey
in there.
Scout,
I feel like he. I feel like
Scout, where's Riley Leonard from again?
who?
Where's Riley Leonard from again?
Fairhope, Alabama, the Fairhope Pirates.
Got to represent Alabama.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, hey, we'll get you a
Always.
flag. Don't worry. We'll get you like the Alabama flag that's like that. You can put it up. Someone's gonna be like, "What's
God,
that behind you?" And you'll be like, "It's the Alabama flag. I'm an honorary
obviously.
I'm an honorary Alabama." It would get everybody just like juiced up. They're like, "That man has
Theme.
the
Oh,
core in his house." Anyways, let's move on. Um, so we have what we've already gone
the
through.
Rose Bowl? We gonna talk about the Rose
Oh
Bowl?
my lord, timeout. We're not going to talk about the Rose Bowl. If you want to talk about the Rose Bowl, this what happened in the Rose Bowl. You ever seen like a dog fight a rabbit or something? That's what happened in the Rose Bowl. You know, just like absolute slaughter. Anyways, we did miss a game
Yeah.
though, so we do try to, and this is my fault, fellas. I do apologize. I was trying to jump from Michigan to Illinois. But we do try, if we tell y'all about a preview, we will talk about it. So, Captain America Bryson Daily, he took out the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs in their home turf of Shreveport, Louisiana. They're not really home turf. Close enough though. But yeah, but it was a great game. Bryson's one of those where I think he's coming back, I believe. But Army is just a team that is poised to compete in the American every year, I think. I think this was the year for Tulane to do better. I think this was the year for Tulane to grab on that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and skip towards to the Arizona State because I think the main one who would have talked about that was Omar, and Omar was not really available this week. Anyways, so let's talk about Arizona State. And I know I'll get ahead of it. Texas fans, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're not talking about Texas. I've already seen. Look, we're going to be behind Pate about talking about this game. We're going to be behind all these other guys, and they're going to talk about Texas. So in this one game alone, let's talk about the team that lost because everybody had rid off the Arizona State Sun Devils. Everybody had rid off Kenny Dillingham, but with Arizona State, with the type of football that's played in Arizona, they balled out. And Bret Yormark said that they were one of the most impressive teams the last 6 weeks of the year, and they proved even more then. And I know all the Texas fans were like, "Oh, Cam Skatebo has not seen an SEC defense." And then to my point, I said, well, none of these players have seen a player as wide as Skatebo. Skatebo gets out there, and the one difference between Skatebo and Ginty is that Skatebo's actually like thick enough to not get run over by a linebacker. Pause. Anyways, but Skatebo, when he meets somebody in the gap, he just doesn't get he doesn't get stopped. He doesn't get run over. He just pushes right through him. And yeah, he's a little short, a little undersized. We'll see him in Mobile for sure. But yeah, and Sammy Levitt, he had a great game too. Like he had very like smart decision making. He had a couple audibles. Obviously, we're not really in the headset in the head. We might Kenny might talk more about that in the future about what exactly he did throughout the game that was like good or bad. Um, but yeah, Joe, we'll go to you first. What did you have to think about the Peach Bowl? You can talk about Texas if you want. I'll also talk about Texas a little bit because I do think that like Quinn Ewers and some of the other players deserve a little bit more love than they got. But yeah, go ahead, Joe, and we'll keep rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this is going to be a blowout game just like everybody else, and it looked that way for a little bit on. But, man, Kenny Dillingham, you can never count out Kenny. He's a phenomenal coach. He's 34 or something crazy. Like, he's
Yeah.
the youngest. I think he's the youngest Power 4 coach. But I mean, he played so well. And Skatebo, my mind kind of changed about him after this game. He proved that he could compete. I mean, Texas statistically, I can't remember if they're the best team in the country on defense, or they're at least they're top three, if not the best. So the fact that he was able to kind of just grind on that defense throughout the game, pause on that one too. And I think what was his final stat line was like 200 yards. Like he had one reception, or he did it all. I mean, he threw a touchdown pass. And also, I think, kind of talked about before in the broadcast. I mean, this is an Arizona State team that was without their best receiver going into this game. So the fact that it was a close one and they gave Texas about all they can handle is just it's insane to me. And it kind of changes my mind going forward too, as far as like how I view this playoff. I mean, we're not going to talk about it, but Boise State, I mean, they competed their butts off too till the last whistle. So it seems like this. I mean, this is why we play the games on paper. Analysts can go out there and say one thing, and all these talking heads can say one thing. We can say what we say, but you play the games, or you play the games on the field. You don't play them on paper because you can't rule out guys like Skatebo and Leavitt that just have the heart and the grit to push through adversity and just battle their butts off. That's all I can really say on that.
Yeah, and Alec, we'll go to you.
Yeah, it's just a tremendous coaching job by Kenny Dillingham, all the Arizona State assistants. Again, this was projected to be the worst team in the Big 12, which many would say is the worst conference in the Power Four. They were expected to be a bad team again. Dillingham, he had a massive rebuild. He had to do all this stuff, whatever. What they didn't see is what they found out is this is a phenomenal football team. I think this is a complete football team too, man. They are not, they're obviously not a perfect team, but they held Texas to 53 rushing yards, 1.8 yards a carry. Nobody had a run longer than 7 yards. Yeah, a lot is talked about, when Georgia played TCU. Oh, yeah, big man move little man, whatever. TCU ran a 3-3-5. Arizona State runs that same 3-3-5. A little different, but that scheme shut down the Texas running game. They were very impressive. They blitzed a lot of guys. They moved people around. Probably blitzed one play too many on the crucial 4th and 13. But it's a phenomenal job coaching, just all around. You have Sam Leavitt just scrambling around, making plays. I don't know how he does a lot of this stuff. I think what Dillingham has done in the portal too is very impressive as well. Leavitt, he's a portal guy. Looking at some of their guys on their defense, Shimon Medier, he's a tight end. He's a very good player himself. Miles Rouser, the cornerback. It's a lot of guys in the portal. He's one of the best in the country at finding guys in the portal. This Arizona State team is in a great position for the future. They're going to be, I think they are losing Skatebo, obviously. I think they will be the favorite to win the Big 12 next year, though. Phenomenal coaching job, phenomenal team.
Yeah, and that's really all I have to say on that one. But in general, and I will say on Texas real quick, I think Ewers has gotten a lot of hate for no reason this year. Um, and and with that, it's like we go to this game, and yeah, like the first 4 quarters. Okay, I will say this like two-partedly. Sam Leavitt said before the game his goal in the game was to outclass the other quarterback, right? And I'm like, for me, that's not terrible, right? Like for me, that's okay. Like I like that, right? Like what else? Have you heard the questions that these guys get asked by these independent reporters, bro? It is the most fire-starting stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. You need some of that, right? You need some of that for content, whatever. But you can't have it of like we need to ask him this hard-hitting question for content. But we also need to grill him because he answered it poorly. Why? Why? Or he answered it in such a way that we could take it in a different way. But yeah, but it was interesting to say the least. It was very cool for me to see. But yeah, and I will say, fellas, and Alec, I know that you're like, I haven't been indoctrinated into it yet, so I can't really talk about it. But I gotta talk about it because I realized that I gotta post something about this on my own little Twitter. But we have the Stallion schedule release, and I'll get it pulled up really quick because it was on the Stallions page. But we have the Stallion schedule release. I know the first one is on the 30th, and it's on March 30th against DC. And then we have, I'll just save this image really quick, and I'll toss it on the screen, because this was all like a last minute thought of like, oh, I need to talk about this. Um, but yeah, so we have DC away on the 30th, and then I'll pull it up for you two to see. Um, let me get this. Bang. Okay, I'll make it bigger. Bang. Shout out the UFL for this cool little graphic. So anyway, so we have on, and I'll make it a little smaller so I can at least point. So we have DC on the 30th. That is an away game on a Saturday. Then the next time around we have Michigan away. The home opener is on Friday, April 11th, I believe. Let me look that up. Yeah, April 11th. It's on a Friday against Arlington. Also, I had called out that Arlington was going to be our opener, mainly because I don't think it's going to be that great attendance, even though it will be the opener. And then we have Houston away. That will be our first game ever at Tedecco Stadium. The Houston Cougars. And then we have Memphis at home. We have 3 home games in a row. Memphis at home, San Antonio at home, and then Houston at home. And we play San Antonio at home right before Cinco de Mayo, so they might have the fans might have some extra tailgate food for us. Who knows? Who knows? I heard a little birdie. But yeah, and then after that we have the St. Louis Battlehawks on the road. That's actually a pretty good time for me. I might end up at that game. And then to end the year we have Michigan at home, and then we have Memphis on the road. So Joe, do you have any thoughts? Obviously, you will be indoctrinated to this. You will be in the shirtless section. I'm forcing you to go. But do you have any thoughts about the schedule now that you look at it?
I need to get more into the Stallions. I need to be properly indoctrinated into it. But I mean, if there's free food, that's always a good start. And media credentials too. Those are 2 selling points. So if I can get those too, then you might have piqued my interest. But other than that, I don't really have much of a file. I do watch these games because I love football, but it's I kind of get wrapped up into the NFL stuff, and then also, I mean, NFL offseason with mock drafts and free agency coming up, and so I get kind of dive headfirst into that. But I will watch some of these games periodically. But I definitely, having you, I mean, you gotta be on me about this to watch these games and pay attention. And I'll get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, but and I will say if I can take this down real quick, I'll figure out how to do this a lot faster eventually. So we have Jay Sternberger just signed back today, leading receiver out of tight ends last year. Matt Corral, Ole Miss legend, shout out Ole Miss. He should be the starting quarterback. He came back a week ago. And then we have Ricky Pearson. He's been our leading rusher the past 2 years technically. Not our leader in all-purpose yards from running back. That was C.J. Marvel. And then we have Jamar Smith, who's looking to make a return to playing. He got hurt in the first game last year, so he was like quarterback coach Jamar. But yeah, but overall, cheap tickets. Obviously, the closest one to Alec is in DC. I don't know how far DC is from you, but it's probably a good what, 8 hours?
7-hour drive.
12 hours.
So
Not
hey,
close.
we the meetup point. If you're like 8 hours from DC, we're only like 10 hours. So the meetup point might be DC. Who knows? Who knows? I might convince them to come down. But anyways, so to close the show, we'll pop this back up here. So yeah, so next week we'll probably talk more about the semifinals because we'll be right in front of the semifinals. We'll talk again about these last few games, maybe a full recap of some of the other ones, or at least a full recap of the other games as well, because we're kind of pushing for time already. And then past that, I just want to say thank y'all for supporting the content. The first 2 episodes had over 130 views already. And we're climbing on subscribers too. We're up to like 30 subscribers. And honestly, the fact that we're pushing that much views at that little subscriber count, kind of a motivation to make more. And yeah, so if y'all want to see any different types of content or anything, be sure to let us know. But yeah, Alec, we'll go with you first. Just do you have any closing thoughts or anything?
Ohio State's going to win the college football playoff.
That's that was that's crazy. That's crazy. But
It's
we'll
probably
talk.
like the coldest take or the most lukewarm. I don't even know the most room temperature take I could have made, but that's my prediction.
That's beautiful, actually. We love the lukewarm takes. And then Joe.
I agree with Ohio State winning it all. I think that's kind of obvious at this point, given their offensive fireworks the last 2 weeks. And then echoing your sentiment, just thank you to everybody who's watching. I haven't been podcasting, I had a podcast for a little bit, stopped doing it. So I'm happy to be on here and just kind of talking football and just doing what I love to do in my free time. So I'm just happy to be here, and we're going to get better. I promise everybody who's watching.
Hey,
Yes.
It's only up from here.
learning process. But yeah, but thank y'all, and we'll see y'all soon.